afternoon, everybody, and welcome into the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. There he is. There he is. He was off on Monday. He was working out in the field. He's back here. It's Jim Scarcelli. Scar, good to see you. How are you?
You know, Denny, I didn't know you were breaking out with Ozzy to get things kicked off. I got a little Ozzy Osbourne story.
Oh, what a treat. Let's hear it.
So 1984, summertime, like this time of year, we had guys that knew guys that needed security for different concerts at times. So sometimes there were opportunities. So this is how this played out. So in Kalamazoo, there was a big ski resort. And they were putting on a huge concert where there were going to be like 8 different hardcore metal bands. You had like Quiet Riot, Rat, Triumph, but Ozzy was one of the bands. Now, what's interesting is the key guy that got us all hooked up with this was John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh.
John was at Western. You know, he had something. He knew somebody that needed guys. So he tells Jim, we need guys. Next thing you know, there's like 15, 20 of us. Rex Steiner, Hammerstein, Stefan Humphreys, Jerry DiOrio, Jerry. Anyway, we all worked security at this outdoor concert. And so there's like 150,000 people at this ski resort deal. It was just like out in the middle. They would helicopter these dudes in. And then the band would play, and then they'd helicopter them back out. But we were working right up front, me and Jerry and all these other guys, Jumbo Elliott, Big Jumbo. And it was a great event. We were there all day long. But, Denny, you had these different bands that came out, right? Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, whatever. Yeah. But when Ozzy got on that stage, it was a whole nother world, man. The place went crazy. This was 41 years ago, man. Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't plan on telling this story, but you jumped out with the tribute. Yeah. And Ozzy got him going, man. I was right there on stage with the people were passing out. It was like 90 degrees, and it was crazy. There was 150,000 people there. Anyway, crazy. That's Ozzy, man.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. I guess with Ozzy
right.
there, he didn't bite any bats.
No, he was a great performer, man.
Yeah, Ozzy was one of the first concerts that I ever saw, and he was something. He was half thrilling and half haunting. You know, even back when he played for Black Sabbath. So he was always one of my favorites when I was growing up. So, and he was in the news. You know, 2-3 weeks ago when I saw his name on Twitter, I saw it and I said, there's only one thing that could mean, that Ozzy is gone, you know, that he has passed away. And so I clicked on, and that was not the case. Ozzy was putting on a concert, which I was surprised about. I didn't know that he was, that was something, but, it ended up being this tribute concert that he raised, I don't know, $190 million. And, you looked at it and I saw the people ripping, saying, oh, Ozzy, people should be getting their money back. They say it's one of those things where you say, hey, this is it. This is my last time. Everyone says, oh, yeah, that's what they always say. He'll be back in another year or two. But it was something like 2 weeks ago. And, now he is with Randy Rhoads up in the sky. So there you go. Yeah, there it is. A little Ozzy talk. We didn't know that Scar had a connection. But Scar does have a connection with some of the things that we are going to talk about today. He will give his opinion on the preseason Big Ten poll, where he thinks Michigan should be slotted in. We'll tell you what all the media had to say to Cleveland.com, and if Scar agrees on that. It is the educational, fun, and entertaining film analysis, and this time we're going to one of the top quarterbacks in the country, where Michigan will have to travel to in week 2 to Norman, Oklahoma. We've got some John Mateer film. Of course, Mateer was not playing for Oklahoma last year. He was up in the Great Northwest, so we'll have the film of Mateer and his offensive coordinator who joined him in Oklahoma. So that'll be interesting to see with when the film breaks out. But Scar was not here on Monday because he was in Northville at the St. John's golf course, the Champion Circle Golf Classic, they called it. And Scar, when you telling people the story of what it was like going there and seeing all the Michigan folks, what was it like, the Golf Classic?
Denny, it was a great atmosphere. It's fundraising is so important now for the whole athletic department. So this thing is it's funding all of the athletics. It doesn't just go to football. So it's a big thing. It's a big golf outing. You got big money ballers paying to golf. And then they have the auction after where they're auctioning off signed autograph, J.J. McCarthy stuff, Harbaugh stuff, Jourdan Lewis, all this different stuff. They're auctioning off to try to get money for our different programs. So I was able to I met the head wrestling coach. He knows guys I know. I met the women's basketball coach. And so they're all there at this function. It's important to raise money. And they wanted I got a call to come and just be a former player and kind of hang out and talk to some of the current players. And then it was a great afternoon for me, man. I mean, I was able to meet a bunch of players, man, and just talking with these guys. And I'm not going to get into the intricacies of our conversations, but Denny, there was a constant thread. There was a common thread, which I left there so impressed with. Every kid I talked to, and I probably talked to 15, 16 of our top 25 kids. Every one of them is humble. Every kid was humble. Every kid has a team attitude. Every guy was respectful of former players and were interested in hearing stories and hearing things and taking advice. And they're just proud of Michigan, man. There's a real pride of Michigan. And I don't attribute that just because they're players at Michigan. I attribute that to the leadership. I believe that players talk in a way that is how they're getting coached and how they're getting led. So anyway, that's a common thread I met with all these guys. I was able to sit and talk with Big Derek Moore I met three of the guys that played my position, TJ Guy and Nichols. I mean, just all impressive dudes, man. And they wanted some stories. I'm telling them stuff. And I watched Derek Moore as a freshman. I seen him, he was probably 260, whatever he was, but now the kids, and it was like more of a refrigerator shape. Now the kid's V-shaped, chiseled, going to have a great year. And all those guys are, they're impressive looking at them on the hoof, but just great dudes. I talked to Crippen. I met Big Babaloa, really an intelligent kid. You can just see, because that's what I've heard Sharon Moore say about him. And I talked to Big Klein, the big tight end. The kid's from Germany. It sounded like he's from Germany. I said, man, you don't have much of an accent. And but I said, man, we got a tight ends now this year that can block and catch. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He said, glad to hear that. And I talked to Marshall a little bit. He played with a guy, Eric Caddis, a guy I played with. Marshall played with his son at Moeller High School. So we talked a little bit. He's a put together kid. And just
Jordan Marshall, the running back. Yeah.
Jordan Marshall. Denny, I was talking to John Wangler and some of the guys I played with that after, talking to these kids, it's like I was putting myself back when I was a 20-year-old kid. These guys are so much, they communicate so much better. Public, like to stand in front of a camera and communicate, to talk publicly, to communicate. I don't know if these guys are doing Zoom calls and they're talking in front of people more, or the coaches put them in those positions. But I was really, really impressed with the humbleness of these kids and then also how they communicate. They were just really, really great communicators in the media. And I don't know if that's something that Sharon Moore is working with these kids on, but because I think it's important that those things are happening.
Let me jump in and ask you a question. You were a high school coach for 25 years or so. So, you know how to size guys up and everything. You said, you were impressed with Babaloa and how he spoke and everything. So, but, if somebody said, hey, do you think physically
yes,
that he could play?
Yes, I stood next to the kid. I'm 6'5", and that dude, and he's put together. And we watched this spring game, and he's going to compete, Denny. Yeah, there's going to be competition there. He looks the part, and I can tell he's a smart kid, man.
Right.
And I'm going to comment on this. Corey G leaves a comment here. Definitely the best culture in the nation. U of M. And I got into a little discussion with someone I'm not going to tell you who it was, but someone who's been around the country and been at worked at a bunch of different schools. And this person said, that he thought Michigan was special and that the players had a real unity and a team attitude and really cared about each other more than any place he's ever been. Okay. And he attributed that to that Michigan is so demanding academically and Michigan so demanding from a football standpoint. And I disagreed with him. I said, I think that the culture at Michigan, Danny, I think this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I said, I think the culture at Michigan, just like the culture at any business or any school, any team, anything, it's all about who's leading the damn program. The culture is, I've said this 1,000 times, the culture right now is Sharon Moore. That's the culture. Because I don't believe that people just because we got the winged helmet, people are going to lay down or because we're in Ann Arbor, this is that. I think it's about the leader. Because we've had different leaders and we didn't always win. Am I right?
No, I think you go to the leaders. I think you just also go to the school. This has been my experience. People are they're not just proud. Everyone, if you go somewhere there, and you succeed, you're mostly, you're proud. But I think for Michigan, it's got to be up there. I don't know. You're starting to rank them across the board. People are very proud. Alumni base is very proud. I know. It was got to be 15 years ago. I was over at the Children's Hospital. And one of the doctors there, was off to the side and, they were all talking and everything else, but I just overheard. And the one doctor came out and she hit her board on the desk. And she said, people, let's get with it. This is the University of Michigan, and they all kind of fell in line like, hey, and I was like, that should be a great coach. They all kind of stood up and like, yeah, this is University of Michigan kind of thing. I was like, that was impressive. I was like,
Denny, I walked away. Our culture is strong. We're about team. We're humble dudes, and this stuff is. I just believe it's trickling down from the top, man. If the leaders talking team and Michigan and Hammer and all that every day to his players and his assistants, it's going to get mentioned. But getting back to the event, I met Gus Johnson was there walking around. Shook his hand. Gus is about 5'6", about 105 pounds.
Detroit's own.
Detroit's own out of UD. But I was able to talk to some of the coaches, and I was really, really impressed with. In fact, I was just able to meet 3 of the defensive guys. Those are the only guys. I saw the other guys. I didn't want to bug them or nothing. But I was in a situation where I was able to talk to Coach Morgan, the defensive back coach, and that dude's a head coach in waiting. He's a brilliant guy, man. Just a great communicator, and we talked. We had a good talk, and Jean-Marie, the linebacker coach, and then I met Espo real quick, and I just congratulated him. He's all fired up. His kid's committed, and Espo. I just read. Then I don't know if somebody had it. He was ranked the 3rd top recruiter in the country. Some ranking had him as a position, as a recruiter, as the 3rd in the country, but. I met those 3 dudes, and man, they were all former coordinators, Espo, Jean-Marie, and Morgan at different places. So I just felt a real winkless. These guys work. They have a great relationship there, and I think all of them are head coaches in waiting. Man, I was impressed big time with all of those guys, and we obviously talked about a lot of stuff I'm not going to mention here, but it was. very impressed with those guys.
What about Underwood? I know that he was there. Were you able to size him up, talk to him?
Yeah, I saw him. He's my height, man. I'm 6'5". I mean, he's a tall kid. He looks, he's an athletic. They say he's gained some weight, and he don't look like he did when I watched him playing against Howell last year in high school.
Put on some weight, yeah.
Yeah, he's been hitting the training table, and he's in the weight room, and I saw him. I watch a guy, Danny. I watch a guy how he interacts, and I watch him, and I see that he's getting trained, man. He's getting trained how to conduct himself. He's acting right, saying the right things.
You know what I noticed about Underwood just from afar, that this summer, he's done some different events where he was at a car dealership, and there was a group broadcasting there. And when he was sitting there talking, he had like 4 of his teammates with him. I also saw some pictures of, some other people interviewing him. And he also had 4 of his teammates around. It wouldn't surprise me that if they come up to him and say, "Hey, we want to interview you," and he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm bringing."
There you go, man.
Bringing the team along.
That's it, baby. That's what you want to see, man. He's
right. I like that. Yeah,
spread the wealth. That stuff is, somebody's in his ear, man. This is about the team, and it's spread the wealth. I saw my old buddy Eric Campbell. He's an analyst there. I played with Soup Campbell. He was there.
Yeah, he looked like he was ready to golf, man. He looked like a good golfer.
He's been all over the country, man. The dude's been coaching for, since like 87, but he's been to 10, 15. He's been up in Canada. He's been everywhere coaching, but he's there. And Denny just walking away. And I sense a hungry team, a confident team. They're working their butt off, and it was a great environment, man. I did talk to a lot of guys. I'm like, real quick, Danny. They asked me, what message would you give these guys? I played 40 years ago. I was getting ready to play my last year, and I said, okay, here's the message I would give to these guys. You go to college, you just sit in class, you go to math class, you go to engineering class, whatever, English class. But the greatest education they're getting every day is listening to these coaches talk about leadership. You're getting Jourdan Moore leadership every day. I got Schembeckler, and what I told these guys to do is I would have a file. If I had did it over again, I'd have a Michigan leadership file. If I was a player right now, this is what I suggested to these kids. Michigan leadership file. You watch how these guys motivate. You watch how they delegate. Watch how things are organized. Watch how they discipline. There's so many little things. How does Jourdan Moore treat the coordinators? How do the coordinators treat the assistants? How's all that play out? And I said, anyway, that was my message to the player. They kind of wanted you to give a message, and that was my thing: is make notes, get a notebook, because you will be a leader before you know it. Someone's going to ask you to lead, and a lot of the stuff from it's up here, but a lot of good stuff you forget.
Scar, did you wear one of those old? No,
man. I was just looking like I was going to the golf course. Then he had a little polo
shirt on. There you go.
That's it, man. I wasn't geared up, man. I should have. I got plenty of gear, but it just went camouflage.
Yeah, I've never played that golf course. I was just over there. I met somebody. There's a golf shop right next to her. I was there just a couple of months ago, but the building right there, the St. John's, I was there for a banquet one time, a long time ago, and that was a very impressive place. At the grounds, it looks like I saw a picture from. It looked like where you might have some hors d'oeuvres or something. This wasn't inside where they had the banquet. This was outside. But I looked at it and I was like, wow, that is posh. It looked great. I mean, they had stuff off. I was like, wow, they must be really. That's why they put the photo in there. It looked great. I mean, but that means a lot too. You look.
Yeah,
it
was a beautiful event. They got a big golf tournament coming up there, Denny, in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah,
some big national tournament, man. What else? I think that's about it about that. It was a great event. Jourdan Moore was up there talking, sounding great, leading them. He did a great job on the microphone, man. So that was impressive.
I want to ask, I have the poll up here, but there was recent, we were talking a little bit that there was a poll that Jourdan Moore was included with, this will be done by a lot of people in the offseason. They will rank the coaches nationally, and then they'll rank coaches within the conference. I just wanted to ask you what you thought about it. I saw people reacting to it, and earlier in the year there was one, and somebody was saying, well, they're ridiculous, putting Jourdan Moore where they put him. And then I thought, having 1 year and being 8-5, not everybody is going to be thinking that, Jourdan Moore is one of the top coaches in the conference. But it was pointed out to me, and it's interesting, whoever takes the task of ranking the coaches, Jourdan Moore also in 2023 he won at Penn State, who was a top 10 team. He beat Ohio State, who was the top 10 team. And then he went on the road and beat Maryland, so that 3-0. And then the other game, I get game 2. So he was 4-0. So do you tack that on? So he's beat Ohio State twice. Do you factor that in if you're someone that is ranking the coaches? Because if you don't, you say, well, he was there just on the Saturday. But you say, hey, he was the head coach. It's interesting. I think Michigan people would be like, hey, he's 2-0. Yeah, I would factor it in. And I think other people would be like, come on, he wasn't there the whole week. That was Harbaugh's team. But I don't know how, like, national people, they're looking at it. They're supposed to be, try to take an objective view of it. What did you think of Jourdan?
Danny, a lot of that. Yeah, I understand some of that thought process. But
yeah.
I look at it like, look, if you replace a guy that was 15-0, and then there was a lot of stuff that he couldn't control, or if you replace a guy that was 0-12, how patient will you be with someone 0-12, or what's the deal with someone 15-0? There's a lot of things to evaluate. So let's just be, we got this year is big though. This year is important, but he's done all the things that we think necessary to move us forward. So where they rank now, this year is going to be big, but I mean, the table is set to beat anybody on our schedule. I believe, I'm just talking from what I've seen from meeting from the coaching staff and the players he's brought in, the players we recruited, the guys that have come up through the program and developed, the quarterbacks. Every room that we thought was our weakness last year is better. So let's take a look this year and beat up the past. But as far as those rankings for the teams you just had up, if you want to go back to that, they got Penn State number 1. Well, they got the quarterback back. They got a lot of players back. They played in the championship game. And, okay.
A lot of people picking Penn State. Not only to win the Big Ten, but to win it all.
Yeah. So much of that depends on who you play. I mean, they don't play Michigan. I think they play Ohio State at home. So that's probably a big reason there. And
I don't think actually they play Ohio State on the road.
Okay. Anyway, a lot of that stuff has to do with the schedule, but I mean, I can look at that. I can look at this stuff. I mean, I'll tell you right now, playing, if somebody told me, Denny, with our Michigan football team, would I rather play Nebraska on the road or play Penn State at home? I don't know that that's a tough decision, man. I don't know that that's a gimme pick. I know people saying our schedule isn't all that tough. Going to Nebraska or Penn State at home, I don't know that there's a big difference in those in picking those teams and playing those games, because Nebraska's going to be a damn tough football team. But Danny, I'm a product, man. I played 5 years there, and my freshman year, you've heard this story. We were ranked number 1 in the country. We had everybody back, and we had 3 losses. It was not the best. And then my senior year, we weren't even ranked. We were coming off Bo's worst record, 6-6, and we ended up number 2 in the country. So, you don't know how these players are going to pan out. You don't know how injuries are going to pan out. It's a lot of guesswork right now in terms of trying to really evaluate these preseason polls. I mean, Michigan State, I think they got the quarterback back. He's a good player, man. The guy's a good coach. They got him at 13. The guy at Purdue is a damn good coach. Do what he did at UNLV.
Oh,
so,
no.
I don't know. And USC could beat anybody on that damn board. He's got a good quarterback coming back. And UCLA brought the big stud quarterback in. They got them at 15. I don't know. So there's just so many questions there, man.
No, well, you're right about there's so many teams now in the Big Ten that somebody's going to jump up there. Do you think that this is bulletin board material? Or like,
it's just whatever, man. It's like, talk to me in 3 weeks. Let's play 3 games. Let me see what these guys do against some competition. Let's take a look at some stuff, man. Because you got to really, the big thing with all these teams, though, is the reason Penn State is ranked so high, Danny, probably more than anything, is you could probably make the argument is that their quarterback is proven. And he's got good players. They're going to play good defense. Yeah. Michigan's got just as many good players as Penn State, but we don't know what our quarterback situation is. Yeah, that's why Penn State's number 1.
Penn State's got the running backs. People are familiar with them as well.
Yeah, they got running backs, they got players, they got defense, they got a lot of guys back. Yeah. But if we find out after Oklahoma that our quarterback situation is in great shape, who gives a damn about this preseason bowl? But that's the big question with Michigan. That's the only question people have.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, and I'll tell you, I would pick Ohio State myself, but and they play Texas week 1, and if they beat Texas, well, then I would double down. They got a Penn State at home. I would say, hey, then I would think that Ohio State would be better than Penn State. They always beat them, almost always. I think Franklin's beat them once, and then Oregon and Penn State play in week 4. So we'll be able to find out there. But if Michigan beats Oklahoma, then I think they can go, and of course they can. But I mean, if they beat Oklahoma, then I would think that they would have a pretty good chance to beat Illinois. And if they beat Illinois, well, now you're talking about they would go into USC, which was their next game, being 5-0, and they'd probably be, close to the, top 5 in the country. So this is what happens every year. We can talk about it. You say, oh, that's a joke. I saw Pro Football Focus had their top 10 defenses in the country, and Michigan was on the outside looking in, and Michigan fans, there were a lot on the Den and the Maize and Blue Review were like, well, the Pro Football Focus is a joke. How could you possibly put Michigan outside of the top 10? Well, I mean, they had a top 5 rushing defense last year, but, they lost the big fellas in there. They're actually ranked as the 19th overall defense. It's not their, if Michigan ended up in, total defense or points again in the top 15, I think they could still get to the college football playoff. They don't have to be in the top 10. They don't have to be in the top 5. Now, if they are, I'd feel a lot better about, going into the season predicting. But my point on all the predictions and everything else, it's fun. It gets us to it. But as soon as you kick off week 1, all of that stuff goes out the window to me. All of it.
Well, you're not going to get a lot of answers against New Mexico, but we get answers against Oklahoma,
Well, you start getting the answers. You get an answer about Ohio State and Texas. You get
a look. But I got to look and see how we do and against some competition.
Of course, Oklahoma would be the one. I love when it didn't work out great for Michigan last year because they had Texas, and I was looking forward to that game for 4 or 5 years, and it ended up being a big thud. But I'm looking towards the Oklahoma game the same way. It's exciting. I love it.
Yeah, that's why Bo always liked, playing Notre Dame first game of the year. You find out where you're at, man. I totally understand it as a coach. You play some lamb chops. You don't really know how guys are going to, you got to get them tested, man.
Yeah,
so
Bo
just so many question marks here, man. Just so many question marks. We don't know how. Like the Washington's got the fast little quarterback. I mean, that kid can be a problem, man. He got in there a little bit against us, and
so let me just ask you, Scar, you're taking a look at this. You think Nebraska should be up there a lot higher. Is that what you're saying?
I think that I really have I start with the coach. I start with the quarterback. I think Matt Rule's a freaking great coach. I think he's got a quarterback who started 13 games. Nebraska's, the guy just keeps making improvement, man. So I think that team is, but then Illinois, who are you going to take out? You know,
Yeah, I don't know. Illinois got their quarterback.
Yeah, I would probably have Nebraska. I'd probably have Nebraska above Iowa. And in Indiana, the guy's just a great coach. He brought a good quarterback in.
Supposedly, yep. Nice transfer.
Illinois got a 3-year starter at quarterback now, and Illinois plays defense. Those are great rankings. But I could make arguments for some of these teams on the right column. That Washington could go and compete any day with Illinois, and Minnesota with PJ Fleck, the physicality they play, and then State's got their quarterback who can beat anybody if that kid can complete a pass. His ability to run, he's a problem, man. And then you
sound like I'll see if I can look. I was not surprised, but speaking of Michigan State, they do have Childs, and he can run. He's a fantastic athlete. He can run all over the place. What kind of downfield passer he is, I don't know, but their win total for the season is small. I mean, it sounds like you might want to play the over for Michigan State. It's like 4.5.
Yeah, Danny, I just respect coaches, and that guy I respect. I like guys that he's gone out there and he's won at Oregon State, and they've elevated their talent. I think they brought better talent in than what he had last year. He's got his quarterback back. I hate to say it, but they're going to be a better team, man. And anyway, there's just a lot of real good football teams in the Big Ten, and some of this preseason stuff. Let's play, man.
Before we get to the film, Jourdan Lewis, the former Michigan corner, he put up a tweet. He was responding to somebody where he said, 6 days a week in camp every day for a month. And I broke it down a little bit where, you start at 6 a.m, you get breakfast, but then you lift, then you do a walkthrough, then you're doing meetings for 3 hours, then you have a 3-hour practice, and then you're back lifting and getting treatment. You've got meetings. And then after the meetings, you get like a half hour or an hour. I don't know if you get a late night snack or wind down or whatever else. And then you got to get back up at 6. You're probably ready to go to sleep. When you see this schedule, were you like, wow, these guys are really working hard? Or what did you think of it when you took a look at it?
Well, here's the deal, Danny. We had double sessions. Everybody had double sessions. It goes way back. The concept of double sessions.
2 days.
Two days. It goes back 100 years when guys were like, they were working on the farm, they were working in the factory, and they're going to school, and they're playing football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got jobs and doing all kinds of stuff.
The galloping ghost was working at the ice factory.
There was no Mike Gittleson, Coach Tress. There was no strength coach. There was none of that. So the concept was, let's get the guy. We won't see him until August, and let's get him in shape in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the concept of double sessions way back. And then somebody got smarter. I heard Saban talking about it. And coaches got smarter and said, these guys are running and year round. They're going to be in shape. We got spring football. We got all this stuff. We don't need to beat them up. So you're seeing, in fact, Michigan, I talked to Derek Moore, he said they don't have doubles anymore. Michigan does not have any more double sessions. So anyway, looking at this.
Let me ask you something. They don't have double, so they got the 3 to 6 practice. That will be where
he might have. Listen, Sharon Moore might have a 2-week period or so where he has the team there all day long, but they're only practicing one time. Or they might come out and walk around in shorts and T-shirts. Well, we had 2.
That was going to be my question to you, Scar. This 90-minute period in the morning where they're doing a walkthrough.
Yeah, this stuff is. Let me explain something why this is different. Okay, I get. Listen, when I played and for a long time, we had 2 brutal, fully padded, knockdown, drag out practices. One in the morning from like 9 to 11:30, and then one in the afternoon from 3:30 to 6. I think that's what we did. But so it was all. The schedule was exactly like this. We were up at 6:30. If you didn't pass your damn mile run, you had to get up at 6 a.m. If you didn't pass your fitness test, we had a fitness test. Guys were running at 6 a.m. Anyway, this whole schedule is exactly what many guys dealt with for many years at Michigan and throughout the country. But the thing that's different about this is that these coaches do not beat the hell out of the players. So I know that like he's got this walkthrough in the morning. They're not hitting, so this is there's only one real tough practice in here. And even the practice in the afternoon, they don't have the contact like we did years ago. I'm not saying these coaches are smarter, Danny. They don't beat the hell out of them in July and August. Okay. So anyway, looking at that, it's demanding from a time standpoint. But you're getting a hell of a lot of football taught because you got them there all damn day. You get your meetings, you get a lot of football taught, and they're not beating the hell out of the players. So I see I understand what Jim Harbaugh was doing there. He had the opportunity in the rules or whatever. He said, okay, we're going to have one long practice, but the other one was a walkthrough, because believe me, the double sessions when I was playing were just flat out brutal. Two brutal practices, and then you got to come back the next day and do it again twice. And then you got to do it again for 2 weeks. And guys were dropping, man. You'd see guys and you don't see them the next day. He went back. He went back to New Jersey. But anyway, I don't know what other guys around the country are doing, but Jourdan posted that. And that was when that was early on. I think that was like 2016 or 17, right?
I didn't know
it was like that, but I get it. And, it's what Jim, he's going in. That's exactly what we did. We went 6 days a week. You had Sunday. Yeah, we didn't do much on Sunday.
Yeah, well, when I looked at that, my thought is that all teams are going to do similar type schedules. Now, they always say devil's in the details. I know just by looking at the spring games that were televised, and you take Ohio State, and they weren't tackling in their spring game. There was, a couple other teams said it was pretty obvious too. Like you're watching it, and they're not tackling. They're doing some thud tackling. And then you watch Michigan's spring game, and they're tackling. So that Michigan was bringing. So I would think that, and you could say there's going to be a little give and take there. Maybe there'd be another injury or two, but Michigan also would be more ready physicality, and they preach the physicality and toughness aspect. And I think it was one of the big things to overtake Ohio State back in 21. They said, look,
but Danny, there's a fine line, and Jim found it. You have to have that fine line between, beating guys up in preseason and losing guys to injury. And you just got to be smart. And every coach has a different philosophy about the amount of hitting they want their team to do.
Yeah.
Okay, believe me, no two guys see it the same way.
Right.
I know what I did as a coach, and you just got to be smart. How much depth do you have? How much? Where do you think your team is? Do they need a little more hitting, or But depth is big, and you got to be. Every team is different, man.
I love it.
What do I got here, Danny? I just a couple notes. Hey, Sam. Sam says this defense will carry the team. I was talking to guys I was talking to Doug Mallory at the golf outing. And I said, Doug, we Jim. First of all, I said, Jim, hiring McDonald saved Jim's job. That's what I told Doug Mallory. And bringing him in. And I said, but we always were able to, even like before McDonald, if our defense struggled, we had to count on our offense, and they weren't always there to count on each other. But when we had the 3 great years, if the offense struggled, the defense would lock them down. If the defense struggled, the offense would score points. You know what I mean? That's just how and we had great special teams. But we won games with all 3 phases when we had our 3 championships in a row. And so I think we got to get back to that, where we can control the football, secure the football, run it, keep our defense off the field, score some points, defense, get off the field, special team, make some kicks, make some great punts, put them in bad field position, have a fake punt in here every now and then. You know, we got to win in all three phases, man. And that's what we got to get. We got to get back. Look, we won those last two games primarily because of our defense, you know, but we just can't go through a 12-game schedule. You cannot go into playing a game like Oklahoma thinking you're going to keep them to 10 points like we did Ohio State. You just can't. You can't count on that, man. We got to be a three-pronged freaking machine, man.
Yes, but it was very encouraging. The Ohio State win was, nobody saw that one coming. It was just a great win. But then playing against the Alabama's ones, and then Michigan playing with the team that they're bringing back this year, save Amir Hall at corner. I mean, 10 of the guys, they're all coming back, and they played really well. I mean, that's very encouraging. That's why if you want to be optimistic about Michigan, you say Wink really got that defense, humming late in the season. And then you say, yeah, in that bowl game, 10 of the 11 starters are going to be back. If they can bring that kind of effort at Oklahoma, they're going to get better at quarterback. I mean, I don't. They're going to get better no matter what. No matter who they play, they'll be better at quarterback. But you have Mr. Underwood now. Let me say something about Underwood before we go to the film, Scar. I was looking at the Maize and Blue review, and they were talking about the Oklahoma game. And what somebody posted that a lot of people saying a lot of great things about Underwood, but one person in particular said, Underwood's the highest rated quarterback since Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to be okay. That's what he's saying. And I thought that sounds like a kind of a Michigan homer type thing to say. Yeah, he's a 5-star, yeah, he's this, he's that, but is he really the highest rated quarterback since Trevor Lawrence? Well, I went to the Rivals 300 where they rank all these players, and you can go back. Well, at first I went and everyone has Underwood now number one across the board. I mean, he is the consensus number one player. But then I went back in the Rivals thing, and you see some of the quarterbacks like Quinn Ewers, they get like a 95.6, and the other QBs going back to Lawrence. In fact, Bryce Underwood has a bigger number score than even Trevor Lawrence. And I didn't even go that. I just wanted to confirm. Like, I was thinking, come on now, there has to be a quarterback in there, but there wasn't. I mean, so how those rankings play out and what people think of them, it has gone from, yeah, he's, one of the greats and all this, like high school, to now he looks like he's one of a generation ranked quarterback that
hey, Denny, listen, man, Trevor Lawrence, they're similar type kids, man. And Bryce probably runs a little better. So they're, if these guys are right, hopefully they're right. Big, tall, athletic, and accurate, and the ability to escape. I'd take Bryce in a minute over Ewers. Ewers can't run. So, but anyway, some other quick thoughts. Sadler from Cass Tech. He's down in Michigan, North Carolina, Maryland, Colorado. He's going to decide in a couple weeks. I really was hoping to keep him home. I talked about Espo being the number 3 recruiter. That's great. Signetti at Indiana. I respect the guy as a coach. It's okay to it's okay to respect people in the Big Ten that coach, Denny. There's a lot of my respect. But he talked about he kind of mocked the SEC. That he was scheduling like the SEC. He dropped Virginia and picked up another some other lamb chop. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that Signetti talked about that. Denny, real quick on some recruits that Michigan has committed. I did look at film of Zion, big receiver.
Robinson, yeah.
Yeah. And, they say he's not highly recruited. I see a freaking potential freak, man, 6'2" and a half, tall, he's got speed and athleticism, looks like, in fact, Braylon Edwards was at this golf thing the other day. I saw Braylon there. This kid, he could be that type of kid. You don't know how guys are going to develop, but he looked big, fast, and athletic. So Zion looks like a real deal to me. And then Titan Davis.
Yes.
We got the big fella signed. He looks like a big Derek Moore type kid. He looks like he could play, and they got him potentially edge and then play maybe a little 5 technique. That's exactly what they do with Derek Moore. So this kid, he can play for Michigan. I can see why he's recruited, and he that's what he reminds me of is a Derek Moore type kid. You know, just got to get him leaner and tougher, but he's got the measurables. Titan Dave, what a name that is, man. Titan.
Yeah, Titan Davis, to me, in years past, prior to NIL, that's not a player that I think, you know, Michigan was going to end up getting. You know, they were head-to-head with Alabama on him, just like they were head-to-head on the Bear McWhorter and Georgia. I mean, they were winning some of those. There was some news yesterday about NIL where they're putting it into the more into the realm, and they're going to treat it like a business. And there was a lot of language there. What I came out with it was that there's not going to be a big change, that there's no cap, meaning that if you're a collective, they're going to treat collectives like a business. And whether they're, but to me, looking at the story yesterday, the latest news is that I don't see the change. If there's not a hard cap, you know, Deloitte or whoever, NIL go, I am still going to be able to argue. I just take, you know, Savion Hyder's the running back out of Virginia, right? That Tennessee and Georgia and Ohio State, along with Michigan, you know, a 4-team race, whatever it is, Michigan, Tennessee. Sometimes I feel like it's Tennessee, Michigan. But if I'm in Deloitte and they say Michigan wants to give $4 million to Hyder, are they just going to come back to no? We, you know, I mean, he's the 12th ranked kid and Rivals 300. They're going to say no, he's only worth running back's only worth $1 million. And I mean, I don't know. To me, then it's going to go back to the old days, like 3 or 4 years ago, where a team like Ohio State could say, yeah, you know, he's only worth $1 million, and then they'll be doing the below the deck stuff again, unless they have a collective bargaining agreement. Until I see that, or they're writing things down where you have to have a signature as a player or a conference that you're agreeing to this, then they're going to get sued, and there's going to be there's no hard cap. So all that language, everybody was like, good. That's so good that they're finally, no, they're not. That's still, and this to me is good news for Michigan because they're playing the game and they're one of the halves right now. But I didn't see that yesterday as any big news on NIL, how they're getting the guardrails and how they're reining it in and everything else. I think it's business as usual when it comes down to it.
We're going to find out, and you're right. Michigan's got money, and we should be able to outcompete people there. Denny, real quick thought. I heard some guys talking. This is something that, you know, these players are getting paid to go on these recruiting trips. It's like they won't go to a certain – you better come up with, like, first-class tickets. You better come up with 5-star housing. I'm bringing 5-6 people with me, and you're going to come up with $10,000 for me to go on that trip. That stuff is real.
Just to take a recruiting visit.
Just to take a visit. That stuff is real, man. You're going to pay for the ticket, first class. You're going to pay for first class a hotel, and that stuff is happening, man. I heard some people talking like that. Oh yeah, they're paying, Danny. They're paying to go on visits, man.
Laughing. I'm not laughing at you, Scar. I'm just laughing.
Yeah,
I'm just laughing.
Yeah,
I take a lot of recruiting trips, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Scar's recruiting trips one day. Anyway, you got the film on, Denny?
I do, but I do want to tell everyone when they see you go through the film, Scar, they want to know how I could be like Jim Scarcelli. Well, you have to be a great athlete and, you know, work really hard to get a scholarship at Michigan. So you might not be able to do that. But if you want to analyze game film like Scar, you got a Quick Cut. QWIKCUT, Video and Analytics. Quick Cut, your place to store, share, and analyze game film. Now we're ready to take a look at it and see what's going to go on here.
Listen, this
ready for some film. Yeah.
Denny, look, this is what coaches do at all levels. You know, and they got to do the same thing to us because we have, we got the returning head coach, and what does Brent Venable believe in? But then he brought in a new offensive coordinator, and he has a new quarterback.
Can we just tell everybody, Scar, that we are watching Washington State, where John Mateer, he's the quarterback at Oklahoma. We're watching him, and his offensive coordinator's with him now in Norman, right?
That's right. So that's what we're going to look at because, this gives you, we definitely can get an evaluation of the quarterback, what we need to understand in terms of his accuracy, athletic ability, height, speed, whatever. But this is what coaches have to try to size up. How much Washington State, because the offensive coordinator that we're going to face is the guy calling plays right now for Washington State. The quarterback we're going to face is this kid I got circled. So we're going to see the play caller. We're going to see the quarterback. Other than that, you got to figure out what is Venables going to keep. Anyway, here we are early in the drive. This is the first play of the game. He motions out to empty. So he's not a big tight end pounding it in there guy. He's motioning out to empty on the very first down. So you don't see a lot of tight ends, and he's throwing the football here. I'm questioning what the hell Huskies are doing on defense, but a little dink stuff. So motioning to empty on first down. Okay, what does that mean to Wink? And we're looking at the quarterback. How what I don't like seeing is how comfortable he is back there. See how comfortable he is, Denny? You know what I mean? I don't like seeing that. I want to see a guy that's he just looks cool, calm, and collective. So here it is now, 2nd and 13, and he shows his athletic ability, gets out of the pocket. So this is the stuff you got to look at. If you're going to contain this kid, he can move. He finds a guy downfield. So you're evaluating the quarterback because it affects how you rush the quarterback if you're a defensive player. Again, and Wink is looking at scheme. So this is something, not everybody does this. This is everybody has a different name for it. When
double stack.
Double stack. Yeah, guys have different names for it, but it gives you certain advantages. It had some disadvantages, but this coach likes it. 3rd and 4. What does he do with the double stack? Because we don't see a ton of that. To tell you the truth, we don't see a whole lot of that. And this kid, this kid is just not what I want to see, man. He throws accurate. He's a comfortable kid back there. It'd be nice to smash him early in the game, get him on the ground. Washington's not doing much to put him in conflict.
You don't want to, if you're on that double stack, if you got the one guy jamming him at the line and you got the other guy backing off, that's like a free 10 yards, it seemed like right there. That didn't seem like the right defense.
Yeah, there's different things you do there. It gives the offense advantages against certain coverages. Man coverage, you got to make a decision. We got to contain here. This kid, you're Denny. I was the guy. I played on the edge, and this is like so crucial for edge guys to see this film. So if you're ever going to be responsible for containing the quarterback, you better watch this film to know what the hell I got to. This kid's a dummy. He goes inside the defense. And he throws a bad pass, but you don't want this guy getting outside. But anyway, the kid can run. He looks like, does he look like a J.J. McCarthy speed to you?
Yeah, he looks like Bo Nix to me. He's like, and he throws with a flair. It's a little bit different. He kind of throws like he's a swordsman or something. Yeah. But no, he looks I would say that he has got of good mobility to very good mobility. Yeah,
and they paid him a lot of money to come there, man. They probably, this was probably a package deal. I like Oklahoma, but hey, my offensive coordinator's coming too. Okay, here's 3rd and short yardage. What does he have? He has 1 tight end in the game or 2 tight ends. But you're looking at this stuff. He's countering back away from he's countering, did Venables have this play in his book? But you got to look at that playbook. You got to look at Venables' playbook and try to figure out what's he going to do. Motioning to 1 back. Right. A lot of 4 wides. Against Washington. So maybe they're going to be more of a, probably maybe see one, not see a whole bunch of tight ends in the game at all. If I'm playing Michigan, you're gonna want to stay away from tight ends because they're going to be good at defending that stuff. Denny. So that's what we would hope that we would have good success against this team. Now here he is throwing the bomb. Now, this is something, Denny.
bomb. All right.
This is, everybody doesn't do this. 2nd and 1, and he's throwing the bomb. This is this is what this coach will do. Everybody doesn't believe in that. Some guys do. So Wink has to understand that this guy over there will throw the bomb on 2nd and 1.
Was there a flag on that one?
Yeah, I think there is. But you're getting into, Denny, what Wink wants to do, looking at this film, what these coaches want to do, and this is what I wanted to do as a defensive coordinator. I got to get into the brain of this offensive coordinator. I got to get into his head. I got to know how he thinks. You understand? So that's what you're looking at. You're looking at what does this guy believe? Here's 1st and 10. What does this coach believe? What does he want to go to on 3rd and short, 3rd and long, 1st and 10? What does he like inside, in this field position, 23-yard line? What does he like? So you don't have time to look at some kind of sheet of paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta know it, and then you gotta call your defense based on what's happening. You got like 5 seconds to make a decision. So here's motioning, and it ends up being like an empty set. How does this thing start out? So they were in somewhat of a pro formation. This guy motions from here. No, it's a 1-back set, and then this guy is motioning back, and then on the snap of the ball, everybody's going out for a pass. So he doesn't leave anybody in to protect. So that's something I don't think Michigan believes in this. Michigan leaves guys in to protect. This coach, he's got guys going out, and Washington doesn't cover this kid, I don't think. So they're in man coverage. Anyway, Washington's in man coverage, and this is the play that you don't want to see, Denny. This is the stuff I don't want to see if I'm coaching. You see that? Because he's throwing accurate passes, and now you got to be, your inside rushers, they got to really understand this. So he's going to step up in the pocket, and you got to treat him, you just can't rush without some type of integrity in here. These guys are rushing, and they lose gap integrity, and they're touchdown.
Big fella had to get him on the ground there.
Well, you have to understand what you're facing, man. This is not. Anyway,
let me jump in. Rip is saying that Wink favors man against a team that does a lot of rapid passing concepts and goes vertical like this. Are you wanting to be a man team more? Do you think, I know mixing it up a little bit.
I think Denny, Wink's philosophy is they want to be unpredictable. They will go zone man. They want to disguise. They want to fool. They want to deceive. So to pigeonhole Wink, I think is wrong, because I think he does a lot of stuff to create problems and create confusion. That's how I would categorize Wink. I don't think there's like say, oh, he likes to do this. I think he's you hold Ohio State to 10 points, and you pick off guys on the 10-yard line because their quarterbacks are confused. Some of the passes, the interception we had, that stuff is created from confusion, I think. I don't know if I answered your question, but I think Wink likes.
I like what you said.
I think Wink likes to do a lot of stuff, man, and I don't like. I think the worst thing Wink would want to be described as is someone who's predictable. So here's a man beater here. So they know something. They must know Washington's in man here. But Wink does it. We do a good job of disguising stuff, but they're up in the box looking at this alignments. We do a good job showing like we're in man. They're showing it, and they run a perfect route to beat this thing. 2nd and 10. They got nobody covering this guy. They clear him up. Confusion. So Wink has to. The coaches are all studying this stuff. What is this? 2nd and 9. This is how I want to end this thing, Denny. I want to leave out on this play. This is how I would, if I was coaching, I would want to leave my guys on this note. this is what happens when we have gap integrity. We rush with contain. We have to understand that with this type of a kid. See, this guy does he have backs in blocking? Yeah, I guess he does. He's got a tight end he left in. But anyway, I want to leave my guys on a positive note that if we we have gap integrity, and then this is how we're going to celebrate right here. So that's all I got, Danny. I just wanted to look at this kid and this quarterback, and get a feel for when I was coaching, Danny, I would look at a play, I would look at a film, and I would just let it run all the way through. Look at every play they ran. And I wouldn't start breaking stuff down, running each play back until I let the whole thing run all the way through and watch a whole game. And then now I'm going to start rewinding and really figuring out how I'm going to line up, how I'm going to adjust. What do I need to be concerned with this guy's thinking? And what do I need to be concerned with this quarterback? But you like to see how that thing ended when you get some pressure on this kid and you got good gap integrity. But hey, we also defended the freaking super freak at Alabama last year who runs a hell of a lot better than this kid.
Well, that's the great point. And that's the thing, if you're a Michigan fan, somebody pointed out, or said, hopefully, Wink's up to the challenge because look what Sark did to him last year at the Big House. But, I think it looked like in the back half of the season, it was an adjustment for Wink Martindale, and he adjusted. And then, what do you say? He figured it out, but he got more comfortable. And hell, you don't do what Michigan's defense did against Ohio State without great players and without great coaching. And then they followed it up. You should be bullish on Wink and Michigan because they followed it up with the entire defense, mostly that's coming back for this year. And it's going to be going down to Oklahoma. People should be very confident about Michigan's defense and about how Martindale is coordinating it. It does. If you don't even have to be a Michigan fan, but all Michigan fans should be confident in the defense and what they've got going right now, based on what they saw the last couple games of a season ago.
Yeah, and we're just hoping that we have that same kind of I'm confident in the all 10 other positions, but we just got to see good quarterback play early on, and then we're up and running, man. The confidence level. Bryce has a good game, game one, man. We'll be ready to go.
Well, I think I'll predict Bryce has a good game one. That's going to be an easy game for him. I'm interested in game two, how he's going to do.
Well, the game one will really help him big time, man. That first start is tough, and but this kid's, we'll see, man. I'm fired up, Danny. I'm fired up about our program, meeting all them guys, humble guys, team guys, meeting some smart coaches. The attitude is good.
Scar, I want to jump in. You're closing down, but when you spoke with TJ Guy, did you say, hey, here's a move that I did back?
You know what I said to him, man. I just man, I watched you, and I said it same thing. Almost all three of them. I was able to talk to those guys. It's like, and I saw it all as a player, man. I've seen you develop. You're smarter, man. You're seeing things. You're reading formations. You're smelling splits. You're smelling stance. You're looking at adjustments. You're seeing motion. What does that mean? When I watch these guys play as young guys, they don't see all that stuff, and then I see, you see Nichols in the bowl game. He was a different kid. You see him in the spring game. He's a different player because he's seeing all the little stuff. The coaches can get you lined up and say, okay, this is what you do. And this, but you gotta adjust fast. You got to read splits fast. You got to read stances and the cadence and what's the quarterback saying and all that stuff that's going on out there. You don't learn that in, that it takes time, man.
Great job, Scar. Rip says he enjoyed the tape session. Thank you.
All right. Well, maybe we'll look at some more of that, or maybe we'll look at some Oklahoma and then try to mesh it. What the hell is, what does this guy believe in, and what's he going to do with? Because that's what our coaches have to do. They got to look at, they got to look at 25 films. They got to look at Washington State every game last year. They got to look at every game Oklahoma played, and try to figure out where the hell, what are we going to see?
Let's take something from Ozzy and go down there and light that boomer schooner on fire or something in the pre.
Danny, I was up there in the front row. He's got Ozzy written right there, baby.
Maybe I should have done that.
I was right there up on the front stage, man. He walked out. It was hot as hell. He had he had this big old bucket. Everybody thought there was water in it. And these people, and he threw it at him, and there was nothing but confetti in there.
Well, I don't even want to say what I used to hear about what Ozzie did with that bucket when he passed it around the audience. So that's not the particular story that I liked about Ozzie, but there he is up with Rhodes. Great job, Scar.
Yeah, Danny, he got him going, man. All them other dudes are out there. No, man. Quiet Riot, Motley Crue. When Ozzie came out, it was a whole nother world, man. Go Blue.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli. Thanks so much. Who knew he was going to have a little Ozzie take for you?